Welcome to the Brass and Woodwind Shop. I'm going to put some cork on some saxophone keys today. And the cork you want to use for instruments is a very high quality cork. You can see there aren't a lot of holes in it, and the stuff is fairly expensive, so you want to be careful with how much you use, and you don't want to waste any. It really doesn't take very many tools to cork a saxophone. You're going to need a razor, and it needs to be sharp. Razor that's not sharp will not do a good job cutting it. It'll make a mess. And then there's a wood block, and you'll see what that's for in just a minute. And then there's a torch to heat up the keys and to get the glue to stick to them. This is a Blazer micro torch. It's very handy. I use it for a lot of my work. I'll show you the number there in case if you want one. And then there's my cork cutting board, and I just leave this off to the side. When I need it, I just put it right in front of me, and I keep all my corks on this. Like I said, cork is expensive, so I never throw any away. I put all my scraps here. Also, you need some contact cement. And those are really all the tools you'll need to put corks on saxophone keys. Start out by putting a layer of cork cement on the cork. You don't need to put contact cement on the cork every time because it will dry on there, and most of this already has contact cement on it from previous times. Once the glue dries, you just take a key and you take the torch, and then you just point the flame at it for about 3 seconds or so, not that long, and then it heats it up, and you just stick it on there and you push down fairly hard, and then you just let it cool off for a few seconds. Then you cut holding the razor perpendicular to the side of the key, just like that, and then like that. Then for the inside of the key, cut a bevel on it to line up to the rest of the key. When you put the cork on there, it should be on there pretty good, and you shouldn't be able to wiggle it at all or pull it off with a normal amount of pressure. If it does come off, one of a few things probably went wrong. Either you didn't put enough glue on there, or you didn't put enough heat on the key, or you didn't push down hard enough. You have to push down pretty hard when you do that to make sure it sticks. But if you do those things, it should hold up for many, many decades. And if you're wondering where to put the cork, you just put it wherever the key is going to touch either another key or the body of the saxophone. So right here, you see that little bump there? They obviously want it to be right there, so that's where you put it. So again, I'm going to heat it up and put the cork on there. And you have to be careful not to touch the key because it will burn your finger a little bit. It won't do any permanent damage, but it will hurt a little. But the cork is pretty good insulation. I can touch the cork right there all day long, and it's not going to hurt my finger. Again, I'm just going to cut this perpendicular to the key. The way to do that is just lay the razor right on the key and just go to the end of where it needs to be cut, and then you can just break it right off. And then on the other side, just do that. And notice I use the side of the razor to remove the cork and not the sharp part, because you'll dull the razor very quickly on the keys. If you go metal on metal, you're going to dull it very quickly, and that's why you want to go perpendicular to the key and not into the key. Some keys get more than one cork. This is the F sharp key, and it gets either 4 or 5 corks depending on the manufacturer. You get one there, and one there, and then this little tab, you put a cork there. And on some manufacturers you have to put 2 corks on 2 different parts of the tab. To show you why the F sharp key gets a lot of corks on it, I assembled the right hand mechanism, and if you push down any one of these keys, it closes the F sharp key. I'll turn this over and see how these keys hit this key, and what has to happen is this key, when it's pushed down, closes this key. So you don't want metal on metal because that makes a loud noise when you're playing the instrument, so you put a cork on the bottom right here. Now you could put a cork here too, but usually you want to try to put a cork on the bottom of the thing rather than on the top, because that way it just tends to hold up a little better. On this particular saxophone, the G sharp key goes on the right hand mechanism too. Other saxophones it's the other way around, like this. But either way, this tab right here closes the G sharp key. Also, the tab on the F sharp key closes the B flat key, which is on the left hand stack. And for these 3 corks, I'm going to put the thinner cork on there, the 0.4 millimeters. Also, there's a similar situation with the high C key. This one gets 2 corks, one here and one here. On this key I'm going to put the thinner cork here, the 0.4 millimeter or the 64th inch on these ones. And the reason for that is there's a lot of pressure between the two keys, and if you put the thicker cork there, it's going to compress and then the adjustment will be way off. So the thinner cork just helps you get better adjustment over the long haul, over the next several years. And then same deal for these keys, just take the torch and then you just push that down. When you're done, same situation, just cut it. Then after I'm done, I just neaten it up a little bit. Then for the middle, you don't want to just put the whole cork on there because you're going to waste a lot of cork. So just cut it first to the approximate size. Then before you take it apart, just mark the key so you know where the cork goes. And there are two little notches on there, and I know that the cork goes in between those. Just one more on this section of the saxophone key. Then the tab gets the next thicker size of cork, and that makes it easier to adjust the keys. Some saxophones, actually probably most saxophones, have two adjustment screws there, and sometimes you need to put cork on those and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's just made out of rubber and you just reuse the same screw. These keys are nickel plated, so the heat works on this, but if your keys are lacquered, the heat does not work. There is another way of doing this. If you don't have a torch, or if your keys are lacquered, you brush the glue onto where the cork is going to need to go, and then you put the glue onto the cork also. Then you wait for about 5 minutes until they both dry, and then you can stick them together. It's been about 5 minutes. I'm going to put that together. Okay, and then the rest of it's the same. You just cut it the same way. And this is around a curve, so you just follow the curve of the key. Like that. Both ways work just fine, but the torch is just faster and easier. Two keys on saxophones get felts instead of corks, and for those you just put the glue on the key and then the glue on the felt, and you wait for it to dry for about 5 minutes. It's been about 5 minutes, and then you just press the two together and you're all done. Doing a good, neat corking job takes a little bit of practice. There's actually an art to it, so just don't be afraid to try. And remember, it's important to use a sharp razor, and razors don't really last that long, so you need to replace them fairly regularly. Like one saxophone repad takes about one razor. Don't be afraid to try and practice. It might cost you a little bit of cork at the beginning, but you'll get it quickly. The cork can be obtained from one of the band instrument repair suppliers, or you can probably find it on the internet without too much problem. Just make sure you get the high grade stuff, and it will be fairly expensive. But I hope this video has been helpful, and I have other videos for adjusting, sanding, and the names of keys, and the links are in the description below for those videos.